Karleen Ferguson. I have been, had property in Gilmer County for 30 years. We came here in the late 90s and have been permanently for us. Came here in the late 90s. Our children, we have 4 children. They have all gone through the school system at some point. I went to, my father became ill in about 2005, so we had to move back to Atlanta for a brief period of 4 years to help with, honestly, my family's business and my dad, who had Alzheimer's at the time. So we moved back there, and honestly, Robert and I hated it because we were so looking forward to spending the rest of our lives up here in Gilmer, but luckily we held on to our house, and God faithfully allowed us to come back once my father was in a home, honestly, and then I could go back and forth and kind of help between there. But I've always been involved. I'm the kind of person that if I see a need, I like to help fix it. I'm also the kind of person that I don't like to complain about something unless I'm willing to get in there and fix it. And so that's been kind of a lifelong thing for me. I don't know when it started or how, but it started as early as my kids being very involved in our schools. When we moved here, we actually were part of the first class in Mountain View. And I remember the principal coming to me and saying, we don't have a parent-teacher group yet here. Can you start it? And I was like, how do you do that? So, you just figure it out. And then we, at the time, there was no soccer here. And my youngest, and the mamas in the room will know that you do what you need to do for your kids. And my youngest, who's 3, just kicked a soccer ball around all the time. And there was no soccer program here, so I said, okay, how can we start a soccer program? So I went to Park and Rec and talked to them, and they're like, we have no money, which now is like, come to haunt me, Charlie. I understand the Park and Rec, not having so much money. But I said, well, we can do it. We'll just do it private, public. We'll figure it out. The parents want to play, the kids. I've been a lifelong supporter of recreation for all age groups. And so not me alone, a group of parents jumped in and kind of figured out, how do we start this soccer program? How do we make it happen? And we did it, and we started it, and I was thrilled to see it continue through the years and then go into the high school level, middle school level, and high school level, and now there's still continuously so many kids playing. And in our Park and Rec department, it's one of our largest programs, is soccer. And I like it because all kids can play. It's not, as it's competitive, but all the kids get the action and the running, and they're all actively involved. So soccer came along. Then the timeline of things, I just kind of continuously found things in the county that I wanted to help with, or I felt like could use my help. And I remember, to jump back, when we came back here to Ellijay in 2008, 2009, downtown just broke my heart, because at that time, that was just after the recession. Half the stores were empty downtown, and they were just starting up the Better Hometown program to kind of revitalize or bring some life back. And when when I was introduced to Ellijay in this community, the hope and just the character of the people that lived here was so inspiring to me and so touching to Robert and I, that we honestly, just fell in love with the community. So we wanted to help in that way, and so I got involved in Better Hometown and the downtown businesses and helping as much as I could, and we started to see a revitalization there. Then as I was doing some things, the chamber saw what I was doing, and they invited me. They were like, well, would you possibly be interested in being our tourism coordinator? I said, sure. I said, actually, what does that mean? Because I didn't understand the business of tourism at the time. I just knew that I wanted to help, the community. And that was the beginning of kind of the agritourism. I mean, we've always been the apple capital then. We were the mountain biking capital, or just about there, becoming the mountain biking capital. And I knew that so many businesses and families relied on tourism. So I thought, okay, I certainly love Ellijay. I can talk about that all day long if I need to tell people how much I love it. And so I did, and took that role on for a little while and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then God called me to something different, and that was, if some of you may be familiar, a company called Stay Active Ellijay, a business that I started, and that was really a calling. I felt like we did a lot to bring all these tourists here and tell them about all these fun, great things to do, but we didn't actually do things with the people that lived here. And that was just kind of a burden on my heart at the time, and where so many friends that I knew that had grown up here had never seen some of these trails in the beginning of the Appalachian Trail and some of these rivers and waterfalls. And I was like, oh my gosh, you live in the most beautiful place. So that's when I started Stay Active Ellijay, and we ran that for 5 to 6 years, right up until COVID, and had 250 plus members. But I realized a lot through that. I just lost my dad to Alzheimer's, and I believe a lot of that was lack of activity and mobility in his later years. He was sitting at home primarily, mostly by himself. I saw how beneficial it was health-wise and mentally and everything with this group of people that were coming in. And I am not a psychiatrist or a counselor or anything. I was just relying on faith, and saw the smiles of all these folks and how much fun they were having. So we did that business like that for 5 or 6 years, and it made me realize the benefits of, once again, recreation. So I'll go into that. So speed up, and then while I was owning Stay Active Ellijay, I'd asked, really, I'll be honest, I'd asked God, I do not want to do politics whatsoever. Like, please don't call me to do that, because I just don't feel like I want to do that. But he did, because he does that sometimes when you don't expect it. And so I said, okay, and I obviously took the step forward on faith to run for post 2 commissioner. And I had the honor of getting that position and continuing to be able to serve this community for 4 years through that. And I learned so much, and so much is kind of an understatement. You're a fire hose, the beginning of all your trainings that you learn, and so much about how government works, and how important our public safety and how much money our public safety costs, and all these factors came into play that I learned about. Really enjoyed serving on that board. Yes, it was trying and stressful. Yes, we went through the first pandemic ever to go through COVID and not have to make decisions as a board of commissioners on literally livelihoods of people. It was challenging, but I'll tell you, I was honored to serve with 2 incredible men, and we just kind of all prayed our way through and did what we thought was the best, made the best decisions and best choices for the community as a whole. Then I've had the last year to do what I think is one of the most important jobs, and that's take care of our children. 2 of our children live here, or one lives in Blue Ridge and one lives here in Ellijay. And I was able to take care of my granddaughter this school year while her mom teaches at the high school. And that was a beautiful thing for me, trying, and I know God has us have children young because it is exhausting. At the end of the day, I was like, yes, her mom walks in the door and I'm like, here, is Isla, and sweet. She had some medical issues, and so she didn't need to be in daycare, and it was great that I was able to do that. So, but over that year, it gave me time to evaluate, to kind of contemplate on where I was, the past 4 years that I had served, where I wanted to go, and really where God wanted me to go was the constant prayer this year. And I unexpectedly was kind of thinking about it. I've learned a lot about government. I've learned a lot about planning. I've learned a lot, when you learn new skill sets, you want to see how can you use them in your next phase of your life. So I learned all these skill sets and was just wondering how I could, and I started looking actually at different positions around the state. Like maybe I go work with the regional commission or something like that, and then reached out to some friends and acquaintances I've made, and decided, I was like, I don't want to drive to Rome, I don't want to drive to, God forbid, I don't want to drive to Atlanta, but so I just kept letting it happen. I had a few more months to decide, and then I had a conversation with Hubert. I'd heard Hubert was not going to run again, and so I met with him and talked to him about it, and he said he was not, and I was like, oh, okay, now we got to get somebody good. to fill in for your shoes. And so I started asking around the people that had said that they might run at this time. No, I can't do that. I can't take the scrutiny. My wife won't do it. It's too much, social media. It's tough when people are against what you believe in. And so I was like, okay. And then I go, and then my husband comes in the door, who was not for me running 5 years ago. And he comes in the door, and he's been very involved now in the community in the last 5 years. And he said, you don't have to run for that position. And I was like, okay. You know what that means. And so we had a conversation about it, prayed about it, talked to our kids about it, and from there, we just felt like it was the right thing to do. This is where my heart is. This is where my children are now. My grandchildren are here. I care so much about the future of it, of the, where the direction of the county is going. And I'll tell you, if I have, 3 things, I have multiple things that I care about, but I do care about affordable housing, and it's been a passion of mine for about 4 years, working along the way with some of our ordinance changes with the Builders Association back in my early days of my first term as commissioner. And then the opportunity to serve on the Gilmer Initiative for Community Housing came available, and I said yes. My heart was there to help, because I saw the money we were paying out for our public safety. We had to be competitive. We had to pay enough out for these people to drive up here or drive into our county from wherever they were. And I saw that cost. And I thought, geez, if they could actually afford to live here, then they could, possibly, we wouldn't have to keep up with the Joneses per se, or our southern counties, and keep up with that amount of money. Then I saw our teachers, our, HR director for the school system is on our housing team, and he said, we can't hire teachers because there's nowhere for them to live. We can't hire a teacher unless they have a place to live. And that affects our schools. I know that our school system right now is going down by 16 children a year, and that's almost a full classroom. And that's heartbreaking to me, because I know also what our stats are for our seniors, and they're rising. And so we're about to have this very unbalanced situation that's not healthy for any community. You really need the young families in there, and the young workers, and workers of all economic levels, to have a place to live and work and be safe. So started working with Gilmer Initiative for Community Housing, then Habitat for Humanity came into my life 2 years ago, and I found out that Gilmer hadn't built a house in over 20 years, and Fannin, it's a Gilmer Fannin affiliate, and Fannin had built 1 house a year in the last 10 years. So Miss Protective Gilmer County came up, and I was like, oh, I can't stand that. That's, so I worked very hard to get more Gilmer folks on the board for Habitat for our 2-county affiliate, and now we're building our first house in over 20 years here in Gilmer, and we'll continue to do that and build 1 house. And some people say, why are you working so hard for 1 house? Thank you. And I said, because for that one family, that trickle effect on that one family and those children makes a difference. The other thing I care about is our natural resources, our agricultural community. I love our farmers. Part of the reason I fell in love with this community, and we'll continue to do that and protect that. I've spoken to you a little bit about recreation. I'm just an advocate for recreation of all ages, and I think it's so important. If you, I have a Facebook page. If you have any information, I have some sheets that I think were given out. If you want to contact me in any way, ask me any questions. I'm happy to answer anything that you have, and I thank you for giving me the chance to speak tonight. And I thank you for holding up our conservative values, because they are so important, and our country is in dire straits, and that's heartbreaking too. But right now, I'm focused on our community at this time, and want to serve as I can. Thank you.
The opportunity, part of my voice is strained, and due to cancer my neck region 15 years ago, and the pounding of radiation on that, it sometimes gets a little stretched. So, pollen outside, I'll do my best, and I appreciate you bearing with me. My name's Doug Rink. I'm a Gilmer County resident. Been here long enough to know, kind of get a feel for what's going on, and to immerse myself in the local political scene. Attending county commissions, Alderman Wolfolks. He, one of my neighbors, we have a rental cabin, there he is. Rental cabins up in the Lower Ridge neighborhood. My wife Sandy and I moved here as she was about to retire from WSB Radio after 33 years, including 25 years covering the state legislature. My background is in journalism as well. I was a reporter, covered probably hundreds of city government meetings, county government meetings, understanding the political process, digging into budgets, reporting on ordinances, ordinance draft, regional growth plans, studies. This was kind of like what I did for a living for many years before I transitioned to be more of an inside manager on the news side. Retired from the news business in 2010. Been up here since 2016. We bought our first place up here. Technically not a full-time resident until 2018, when our youngest graduated from high school in Gwinnett County, and allowed Sandy to have the freedom, we could uproot and move, and we found a place on Solano Mountain where we are today. I love Gilmer County. I love the beauty and the character of this county. We've been coming and going and spending time up here for 25 years or more. We have 4 children, with careers ranging from PhD in computer science, working for Microsoft in Seattle, to one works in the entertainment field. She just came back from Europe as part of the tech support for the Brad Paisley concert tour there. Another's a systems operator with a data storage company. And my daughter, Erin, is 25 years old and she's an airline pilot. She flies jets for SkyWest in the western part of the United States. They operate under the United Express brand airline. Her goal was to become a legacy airline pilot, flying international missions, passengers around the country. I'm proud of all of them, and they've grown and found courage within themselves to do what they did. They weren't children you had to push, self-starters. So Sandy and I are here, been following the government here for a while, following the community, following some of the social issues. And my concern with some of these issues are what brought me in to this circle and this decision to run. I do want to say first off though, there's been apparently a whispering campaign out there trying to typecast me and stereotype me. And I think it's inaccurate. I had somebody corner me after a meeting yesterday. You're part of that Keep Gilmer rule, aren't you? You're their candidate. I said, no. I said, there are some people out there saying that about me, but, Keep Gilmer rule is not an organization. It's not a political party. It's a Facebook group. Anybody that's part of a Facebook group know how Facebook groups are. They're not, monolithic or whatever. I got into this because I had severe concerns about some key issues. Some may be resolved this year, but other issues like them will arise in the future. And I think I can be part of a process that leads Gilmer forward in a constructive and unified fashion. My candidate, my supporters are people like you. There's a vast variety of people who have encouraged me to run because of my background, my knowledge of government, my knowledge of process, and my ability to really get along with almost anybody who will let me work with them. I'm a conservative Republican. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I'm a member of the Gilmer County Chamber of Commerce, have been for 7 years. I'm involved on the tourism committee. Sandy and I own some short-term rentals, small vacation cabins. We're not big, it's basically passive income to supplement my Social Security. We're turnkey, we do it all ourselves. We don't rely on outside help. So, one of the issues driving my campaign right now, I'm going to have to get a sip of water here, is this push to regulate short-term rentals. I have a lot of concern we rushed into this. And we haven't really taken full account of what this community needs. Because we have so many, but nobody knows how many. Chamber says 1,700 to 2,000. One guy says 3,400. One company says 2,500. We've never even tried to get a real systemic number. I don't know how you can regulate something if you don't know what you're regulating. The way we've gone about this ordinance now, we're at the 12th revision. I took a call from a builder today. These people say I'm keep Gilmer rule, but builders are calling me. Did I make a mistake buying that land in Gilmer County? Should I get out now? I'm getting calls from Florida, from property owners. Are they gonna push me out of business? I'm not making any money as it is. And, is it time to sell? Real estate agent from Atlanta told me. My client has a house under contract. Should we use our exit clause? We've got a very short time here. I don't know. Because this process has been so fragmented and so frustrating. I like what Union County did. I don't agree with everything they put in the ordinance, but it was community built by the people in the community. They formed a committee, they studied ordinances from across the country. And when it was enacted and it put in place, they've had zero problems with short-term rentals. They haven't had to suspend or revoke a license because the community respected the process. I just don't feel like we're moving in that kind of cooperative spirit here. The chill is affecting all of our businesses. I mentioned some who have contacted me, I've had other people in our businesses here. There's concern. If we put a chill on our tourism and we damage the reputation that we have spent decades building, it may not be easy to get back. And our peril is doubled because Fannin County is doing the same kind of thing at the same time. So our whole region is in a state of flux in terms of the eyes of the tourism industry. Other kinds of growth issues. Smart growth, I'm a fierce advocate for smart growth. But I learned this week from our tax assessor's office, we have more than 11,500 vacant subdivision lots. Wow. That's a lot of potential new homes that can come online very quickly because most of them are developed or good to go. And yet we have fire and public safety that cannot, it's very challenging. I've known Chief Kaufman back there for a long time. We've talked about this on many occasions. We have trouble meeting our present needs. We have 4 ambulances covering our county. And we got 32,000 people, widespread service areas. There's times when those 4 ambulances are outside the county. Last summer, Sandy called me at 10:20 at night. A visitor to one of our cabins was not on our property, but somewhere else, and had injured herself. She had fallen, split her head open, back of a neighborhood. Okay, it's 10:20. She says you need to go up there. I said, okay, I'll come. But I'm going to see a red light from an ambulance going south as I'm going north. I got there maybe 30 minutes later, 20 minutes later. I got there about 10:50, 10:55. Although paramedic is there, he's assisting the woman. But there's no ambulance. She needs ambulance transport. They were afraid she had a skull fracture. Fortunately, she didn't. I was on site for about 30 minutes or more before that ambulance got there. And we can do better. We can do better than this. It's expensive. Charlie has a plan it is being studied by the fire department on traffic, on where the most needs in the county are. And it's just renovating some of our volunteer fire stations to bring them up to full-time service. And I've heard it costs $1 million a year to staff a fire station. But with these new subdivisions out there, these 11,000 lots, we're gonna need more responders. These are hard issues. This isn't fluff, this isn't stuff we necessarily want, this is stuff we need. And then there's this whole other thing with high-density development. There was a study done last year, which pretty much set the tone for, well, let's just forget about this far-flung development where we already have 11,000 empty lots. And let's go with high density. Let's put cluster homes in, let's build apartments. Well, do we take the resources that we promised to the outlying communities and put them towards providing services to the new apartment dwellers? Or do we, what do? We can't do both. We need systemic planning. I understand we need more housing for people who work here, for people who are retired here and are downsizing or on fixed income. But right now, there's literally waves of what they call low-income housing tax credit apartments and high-density developments sweeping across Georgia. And there are several entities, if not more, with eyes on Gilmer County. Perhaps lured here through the auspices of the Gilmer Initiative for Community Housing. When this program was pitched to us, I was excited about it. We're going to get a systemic housing plan. But in almost 3 years, GIC has not had an open meeting where you and I could attend unless we have a special invitation. You ask about specifics of what the plan entails. You just get vague references. We've been told this apartment complex is coming out here off of Yukon, or wants to come in here, or high-density housing, whether it's apartments or not, I don't know. We haven't got the full package yet on what's proposed. But apparently, GIC has gone off and toured the state, talking to developers, picking a developer to proceed with this, has excluded developers. But we've been told nothing about process. We've been told nothing about who made the actual decision. And we've not been told this is going to be shared with our planning and zoning or our wider commissioners when it's time to make a decision on this. The process may be good, but it lacks transparency. And without transparency, legitimacy can be called into question. So, for asking questions about this, doesn't mean I'm anti-growth or anti-housing. It doesn't mean I'm keeping doing a rule. It means I am applying critical reason, and you should want a conservative county commissioner who asks questions about hard issues and tries to bring as many people to the table in pursuing the answers that we need moving forward. And I think I'll make a good commissioner. Thank you.
Our Gilmer initiative, Doug, has been, we're not a public group, so we don't have to be forced to have public access. And unfortunately, because of social media and things just like this, about this housing project on Yukon got out onto social media before it was really finalized in planning and zoning. And when I say finalized, I mean turned in properly to our planning and zoning director. The planning commission will then decide if they like the project, and then that will go on to the board of commissioners, just to clarify. But we have been working we're on our 3rd year of GIC. We did apply for that, and what we found through that is that there are some grants we like and some grants we don't like. And when I say we, I'm referring to a housing team of about 15 of us. There's a member of the school system, member of Pilgrims, member of just different people that were hand-selected. They were because they had insight that would be important to what we were looking for. We are absolutely not looking to do hundreds of units of housing. We are very intentional to do 50 unit is what we're targeted to do. And they are a certain price point, which is really not the very low income. It's our first responders, teachers, anybody in that price point. So, and there is a certain range of it that I can look at my notes and tell you specifically. But, so with that, the city of Ellijay already had the zoning in place. So there's already a low-income tax credit development coming on Courier Street, which is 50 units. And in the process of, to answer your question, Doug, about the process of interviewing different developers, we were very intentional. We interviewed about 5 different developers because there were some that we felt like they wanted to do bigger. They wanted to do more. We did not want more. We're not looking for mass hundreds of units whatsoever. We're very intentional and strategic with let's start with 50 and see how that works for our community, because that's going to relieve, those folks can go there, and those folks are the ones that are going to be driving those ambulances and those fire trucks that we need so badly in the future to meet that 11,000 lots that you're referring to. But those folks can live in those kind of places and be much faster on call and we won't have to pay the Southern County prices necessarily if they can live close. So that's intentional knowing of the kind of growth that we have coming. But so that low-income tax credit is a tax incentive. It was actually developed by Ronald Reagan back in his term. It was an idea to do public and private partnership when he realized government housing was not going so well, not as productive as we know, and detrimental to the areas that they come about in. And so he thought, if we do a federal tax incentive to these companies, that they can come in, the developer, and build, and because of that tax incentive or tax deduction, then they can build that property for less money. If they can build it for less money, then they can charge less money and still make a profit, because nobody's doing anything for not for a profit. And we interviewed about 5 different developers. We felt like this one specifically, it's Paladin and Georgia Communities, and they're kind of umbrellaed under each other. I think that post that got out there was like they were 2 separate companies. They're not. It's really one and the same. But we were looking for the keywords, and being part of the Gilmer Initiative, we found out from other communities that have done this that were like, you've got to get a developer that works really hard to make sure your folks get the units first, right? Get the housing first. So we were, that was one of our top questions, and we sent out an RFP, and you had to, qualify of different things, and that was one of our big questions where they scored points with. And then once we figured out which ones we wanted to interviewed them, then we went to the communities that they'd served in the last 20 or 30 years and asked them, first looked at them of all different age stages, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, ago, how much did you like these developers? Were they good to work with? Did they really do what they said they were gonna do and do everything they could to help your locals get the housing? And this company was the one that got rave reviews. So we really did our best efforts to find out who we thought we could trust the most.
Okay. Thank you, Karleen. Doug, do you want to also talk to this topic?
I hear it a lot. GIC's a private committee. They don't have to let us in to know what's going on. They don't have to be transparent. They don't have to have open meetings. But what is GIC? It's a part of a state program, which is a joint project of the University of Georgia, the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, how does a community become part of GIC? They are nominated by their governing entities. In our case, it was Ellijay, East Ellijay, and the Gilmer County Commission. And the charter was for our community to create a systemic housing plan. Study, implement a housing plan. Okay, they have been given an official charge to be a planning agency for Gilmer County. But they argue we're not allowed inside their meetings. We're not allowed to see their records. They don't make them available.
That's true.
Even the membership list is closely guarded. You go to the GIC Facebook page, you see pictures of people smiling at meetings, going to conferences, but there's no specifics of what happens there. It's all behind closed doors. I'm not suggesting what goes on behind those closed doors, but they're making decisions for us. They are going through a competitive process for developers. She's told you, they went through 5 developers and picked one. But we're not allowed to see the documentation. We're not allowed to see why that was done. They have not shared this. And I have been asking for it for 3 years. I was told in May of 2022, you want to come to a GIC meeting? We can probably work it out. We'll get back with you. I'm still waiting. I've got it right. We can probably, depends on what our agenda is, because I don't know what the things they didn't want me to do. And what, it doesn't matter anyway, I didn't get the invitation. And I'm not aware of anybody else that even tried, because it's been such a low-profile stealth project. It has almost seemed to intentionally designed to dissuade public input.
So why is that?
Because this is so important, I'd just like to respond and clarify some things, Doug, for you, because we were not appointed by any government elected officials. This is totally a grassroots effort that we got together and applied to the state for DCA.
Who's
The
we?
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of
You
Commerce.
can look at our Facebook page, and it does have a list of who all is on there, and we do have a few transitioning right now because there's like a new Pilgrim's Pride person and thing, but it was more of a grassroots of let's find out what we can find out about what other communities have done for planning. So I do not want to put Charlie or any of our elected officials on alert. Now, we did invite them to be there, and some have been there. Charlie has not, but we've had other, John Marshall is part of our group. So our elected officials are invited to be part, but they did not tell us to go out and do this at all. That was not.
So why are we not allowed to attend or see what's going on
I understand, I
behind this
get that,
curtain?
but I
What, we're hiding behind the curtain, why?
Hey, if we can point of order everybody
Yeah.
and stay on task,
Yep.
we can do a separate debate with these candidates for the GOP standard. Thank you.
Is this related to this topic or a different topic?
It's going over into the affordable housing discussion.
We'll give you a quick couple
Okay,
minutes.
yeah, real quick, Brenda, and I've heard Kent Sanford do this at commission meetings and planning and zoning meetings, where he dangles a carrot, police officers, nurses, and teachers. Great, it really tugs at our heartstrings, I get it, but how do you control that when it gets out in La La Land and in the great big web, and Atlanteans say, oh, they got affordable housing up in Gilmer County, let's get in the car and go. How do you stop that? How do you control it without violating HUD and federal housing laws that, I'm sorry, we're holding this for our locals, you can't come in here and live. So how do you control that? And that's for both candidates.
Well, I'll answer. I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
I'll start by
Okay.
asking the broader question, define affordable housing.
Right.
So I think that's the outstanding question, and, you know, so, because with that, you know, and I'm gonna speak just as Rhonda, not as the GOP chair, as saying, you know, I've heard so many different definitions of what affordable housing really means.
Affordable healthcare?
Yeah, same with affordable healthcare, you know, what does this mean? What does it truly mean? What is the definition of that? And I think that's what makes the difference. And I think we could talk for literally days on that topic, but for the sake of this meeting, I'm not gonna go down that path, but we can I'd be happy to invite our candidates back again for further discussion.
Well, it was brought up tonight.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, you know, I respect that, sir.
yeah.
You know, but again, you know, we can try and define affordable housing, we'd be arm wrestling back and forth. But because we are on a timeline, you know, I'm a stickler for time. You know, I wanna be very respectful to everybody here, and we have, and I also have one more person who wants to say 5 minutes of information. Brian wanted to share an update, but I wanna thank our candidates. Like I said, I will be happy to bring them back in another meeting, or set up something separate for maybe just a sit-down conversation.
And I'm
Because I
happy to
don't
stay a
wanna
few minutes.
dismiss what was just asked.
I'm happy to stay a few minutes and answer anyone's questions.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
And let's not let that carrot dangle, let's establish a date when we can have this next debate. So my question get answered and everybody else.
I'll work with the candidates to see what their schedules are, 'cause I
So we are working on several different ideas. These guys are included in that conversation with Kent Sanford, who is our Joint Development Authority Director, Gary McVeigh, who is over water and sewer. We have someone, Jim DuPont, with the planning and zoning, and also he's a developer, so we wanted his insight for both of those reasons. And then, of course, Karen Henson with planning and zoning director. So those are kind of the core that we've been meeting about every 2 weeks, if not some are meeting some on the outside. But there are some ways to expedite it, and that is working with other leaders in the community like we have, so we're all talking on the same page and trying to figure out answers. And we've gone off on all kinds of things, like maybe this would work, maybe this would work. And I'm like, no, you know, we all hash it out together in this group. That may not work for that reason, or not right now, or you know, whatever. And we're not done. We're still going to continue to hash and think of ideas and ways that we might be able to slowly, you know, eat this elephant one bite at a time. But one question I get asked a lot is affordable housing. What does that mean? And you know, we kind of set a price on it a little bit. We're trying to. Our goal is like $200,000 or less for someone to purchase a home. And then rent under $1,000, $700 would be great. $800, you know, something in that range. I will tell you, I did work on the 5-year plan. Everybody thinks there's no plan. There is a 5-year plan, and it's on the county website. You can check out. Our thought is to do one small, successful one, and get it done, and then go from there. You know, it's a learning curve for us.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you say that that the commissioners would vote on it. Would it come to the public for any kind of thing before?
It would not, actually. It is who you vote for, your commissioners. You voted us in, and when a new election, if you want to change that, 2022 is a new election. And Chairman Paris and myself are up for re-election. So that's who, you want to vote for the person that you think will do what you want for the direction of the county.
What my concern is we're opening Pandora's box to expansion throughout the entire county. It's not just gonna be the city of Ellijay, it's gonna be all of Gilmer County. That's my concern.
Well, it's my concern as well. So
Yeah, but
all
we
I
seem
can
to
tell-
have these private meetings going on that nobody's aware of.
And I'll tell you, because, here's why. Because the media has to be at any public meeting that we have. And I'm not saying I wouldn't love all of you. Let me listen.
After the fact, not prior to the meeting. After the fact is when
Sir,
the
if you
meeting
just
is
please
there.
allow her to answer, then we will,
Oh, excuse me for being shut up.
No,
you're
and
on.
I
No,
don't
I'm
want you
being
to be
shut up.
I don't want you to be shut up. I just wanna tell you the position I'm in. So, we have a 3-member board of commissioners, and anytime we meet, it's public. The media is there, and it's not like our media, like Atlanta media or whatever, or the other media. However, they like to just take it and run. We wanna talk about, or the metal boxes, the container housing. They would have run a story and say, Gilmer County's gonna have container boxes, blah, blah, and then you all would have freaked out. So we're running down all kinds of rabbit trails, trying to figure out answers to this solution. It doesn't mean we're going in that direction, but we wanna have the freedom to talk about it. I just volunteered to lead this and get this going with this group because I knew if we had more people, more leaders in water and sewer were important. Ken Sanford with our Joint Development Authority, bringing in Mac Woods, city planner for East Ellijay. I can bring those folks in and talk in a private room for a minute. It's not trying to hide anything from you. It's almost trying to hide, don't take this, hide from yourself. Yes.
Thank you, is this housing gonna be open to the public, or is it just geared for Gilmer County residents?
The housing that we'll do for,
The affordable housing?
yeah, so affordable housing, now, I'm specifically in the overlay district, just kind of talking about, for instance, I'm just gonna give an example, an apartment development complex, right? Coming in, so will that be open for the public? Yes. There are a few developers that we are having conversations with that really wanna help, and they want to help build something affordable.
But can you prioritize that it's for Gilmer County first? I mean, on a waiting list, I know it's
Yeah,
here.
unfortunately, that's,
Yes,
there's so many
you can.
governmental
Cannot, it's
things that
considered
don't allow that.
redlining.
Okay.
You cannot prevent someone from purchasing a property, it's called redlining.
How about breaking any sunshine law?
No, I'm saying you're having meetings that the public can attend so that you can decide things, and so I'm asking the question, who was there? Who was, I mean, is everybody involved? I wanna see everybody, it's a community problem.
But all I can say is that there are a lot of different people working on it. It's not just this group that I'm with working on it. There are a lot of other people working on it.
So there's no control, even when you start building these R5s, wherever you're gonna build them, there's no control over what's gonna be affordable.
That's right.
The builder can come in and tell you one thing, and they can end up selling it to some guy in Atlanta for 10 times, for what is not considered affordable any longer.
Yeah, you are exactly right, and that is a real issue. That's
And
why.
you can't dictate who rents it. Anybody can rent it, anybody can build it, anybody can rent it. Once you start building these, you have no control over anything.